Hello and welcome to our 23rd episode of our Ellie.Talks podcast, a podcast that inspires, informs and connects you to the world of sustainable textiles and fashion. And today's episode goes on the topic of digital circularity. And for that I have a conversation with Alexander Carpentier, CEO of Twintag. Welcome, Alexander.
Thank you for hosting today.
We will start with a brief overview of Twintag, and I looked a little bit on your website to know what you're doing. And I found that Twintag is a Belgian company at the forefront of digital circularity solutions. Twintag's SaaS, or Software as a Service platform, offers a unique approach to product digitalization and traceability, catering to a wide range of sectors. So today we will be diving into the concept of digital circularity and how Twintag solutions are driving circularity in our industry, a topic which Ellie.Connect supports a lot. But before we dive into the business side of Twintag, we want to get to know Alexander as an entrepreneur as well. So welcome again, Alexander. Can you maybe start with introducing yourself, a little bit on your personal journey, and specifically what motivates you in life as well?
Okay, happy to. So indeed, Alexander Carpentier. I'm 39 years old. First and foremost, a happy husband with a lovely wife and 3 kids who are all in primary at the moment, so they all have a gazillion hobbies. So that tells you a bit of what I'm focused on outside of work. Big music freak as well. Play a bit of hockey, so make sure that I do get some movement. But next to that, professionally, I have a background in computer science and AI from back in Leuven and in the US. And then when I started working, spent the first 12 years of my career in management consulting, mostly at Nova Reperta, focusing on large transformations, company-wide transformations, operational excellence, new management techniques, change management, that sort of thing. But we're also investing in startups. And actually one of those startups was Esoptra back in that day, which is now Twintag. And Esoptra was founded by my father and Jan van Riel. Their 6th startup already, always in deep tech. Serial entrepreneurs, yeah, like the garage box type of entrepreneurs, as you would.
Your home,
yeah,
then.
Yeah, indeed, yeah, multiple of those. Yeah, so really got that ingrained from a young age, I guess. Even though I'm a totally different type of person than my father, and that's what makes the collaboration good, I guess. But so when I was a bit looking into, okay, what's next after consulting, this train passed by. I saw this cool piece of technology. I thought, okay, why not switch sides? And that's what happened. It was back in 2019, I guess. Took over as CEO in 2020, in January. In March, COVID hit. So that was like a very nice first CEO challenge.
I feel you.
Yeah, I can imagine. So we navigated that, but also we took the time to really dive into and create our value proposition as it is today. So that was actually pretty good for that, huh? Because when I entered, it was very cool technology, but not as much linked to what's happening in the market. And so that's really that helped, or we shaped that in COVID times. And so, it's been a roller coaster since. And so, to answer the last part and what motivates me there also in life, it's even though my background, I'm not actually a techie. I don't consider myself a techie like my dad, for example, is one. But it's more the transformation within those companies, like seeing organizations transform themselves, working with people, these champions, and getting them to new levels. That's really what's always motivates me. I have a innate dislike for waste, like waste of time, stupid processes, and so that's been like this red thread. And so waste, time of effort, but also the concept that we're talking about, the waste of materials, also falls a bit into that. So
and especially Ellie.Connect is what we aim at is to save time to provide relevant solutions.
No, it's super relevant to the matchmaking. It really helps us startup as well.
Okay, Thank you. Nice to get to know you, and I'm sure that our listeners and watchers will think so as well. Let's zoom out a little bit and talk about the topic of the day, which is digital circularity. Very nice concept. Can you maybe explain what you understand on digital circularity and how Twintag solutions are also helping that to create the circularity and closed loop systems?
Yeah, I think for digital circularity, I have a pretty simple take on that. It's no more, no less the set of digital solutions and tools that helps companies to realize their circularity or their sustainability goals. I think what we've really observed in the past, where 3 to 5 years ago, the term on the corporate agenda was digital transformation. You've clearly witnessed a shift towards circularity and sustainability. Today, if you as a manufacturer, as a company producing, doing something with products and servicing products, making products, if you don't have a strategy to make your product circular, it feels like you're already losing against your competition, and that's a bit a lot of FOMO going around, and so that's one observation I would say. Next to that, you also see that if you take a look at the world of physical products, it's really changing fast. Whether you're a manufacturer, a distributor, a consumer, recycler, they all have very different needs from the product that they're looking at, that they're working with. And at the same time, the third observation is that the data haystacks in all of these companies are piling up. They're huge. Everybody has 38 platforms to manage, a lot of data being created, but what to do with it, how to transform that into actionable information, that's a lot less
data oceans.
Yes, indeed. And so from those three, I mean, that's really the opportunity that we took with Twintag, and where we can really contribute. Take a simple mattress, which is end of life. It used to be, if you don't have any data attached to it, it's a waste problem. As I mentioned the concept of waste. But if you attach data to that mattress, it becomes valuable feedstock again, right? So the importance of data or actionable information on that mattress is extremely important, and that's what we facilitate. What we make easy with Twintag, facilitate the information flows around products like mattresses and so forth.
Okay, so you have as Twintag a digital product passport platform. Of course, digital product passports is something in textiles that will become very, very important. And your platform is powered by QR codes. Can you maybe introduce a little bit about that technology and the role of the QR codes in the system?
Yeah, I think to start with that last part on the QR codes, we're not at all specifically married with the QR code. Actually, throughout our history, it just popped up along the way. And it's also partly due to COVID. You've seen the mechanism or the concept of the QR code gain a lot of power. Everybody has a scanner in their back pocket. That's what makes a QR code so powerful, as opposed to having to download apps and yet again new accounts, new passwords. Nobody likes that, right? So that's why we like the QR code a lot, but we work with other carriers like NFC or RFID just as well. So that's one part, and because of the low threshold, it's the perfect way, or the perfect way to add in a low threshold way information to a product, and that's also what the digital product passport is all about. I mean, it's about making the entire digital life of a product available straight off the product. I mean, the core concept of what, or the core belief of Twintag is that within years from now, every product, every asset will be connected in one way or another. Whether it's IoT, whether it's QR, whether it's NFC, jury's still out, and that will change over time, I'm sure. But there's simply too many advantages for that, and the digital product passport, I would say, is just one of it. If you take it a bit broader, we don't call ourselves a digital product passport platform as such, or we might sometimes, just to get people's attention, but consider ourselves more of a connected products platform, where there's multiple reasons, multiple strategic business outcomes that make it super logical to add a digital identity to your product, whether it's to reduce operational costs, streamline the supply chain, improve customer experience, or ensure compliance, which is what the digital product passport is about.
So you're not only focused on the external processes towards the end customer or the supply chain, the customers, but also internally in processes, in plants?
Good question. Let's say that we could technically, or the technology allows that, but where we see that we add most value, within an organization, you typically have already a lot of systems in place, and it's pretty straightforward. I would say it's a limited ecosystem, so it's controllable. Once your product leaves the factory, it goes out into the wild west, and it's way more difficult to interact with all the other personas that need to say something or want something from that product. So we focus mostly outside, but whether it's a recycler or a consumer or an installer, a technician, all of those personas have their place on the platform.
So you use it for sharing product info, maintenance, repair, end of life guidance. So the example you gave of mattresses, for instance,
indeed.
That's a very specific challenge in our industry.
Yeah, exactly. With the mattress, for example, the digital product passport is going to be introduced, I think 2027, something like that. It's still changing, but it's still pretty far ahead, at least in startup territory, scale-up territory. That's pretty far ahead. For large corporates, it's a different thing. But so that gets you into a conversation and you're managing compliance. And that's also where our role that we continue to say, I still need to come across the first company who likes to implement a compliance project. It's a pure cost drain. Everybody remembers GDPR. Nobody was a big fan of that. This digital product passport isn't introducing similar types of or even more types of complexity. So it's working on all those other business outcomes. If you add product data, collect customer information, all through the same channel, then you can really improve your cost base, or generate new revenue streams, all through that same channel that can be upgraded with a digital product passport when it is ready. Right? And that's the take that what at least gets a lot of companies started today, because there's a lot of companies that are just looking at each other.
They're waiting, and we know the laggards. Of course, in these times, as you said, during COVID, a lot of digital technology startups started as well. How do you differ from other technologies in this field of digital circularity? What is your key competence in this?
Yeah, I think because the question indeed that we get a lot, the main thing links a bit to my previous point. It's by not per se focusing on the digital product passport as the point to start, by showing them that a lot can be done with what they have today. Many of those companies, they all think, okay, we first need to wait until the standard's been defined, that we exactly know what we need to put in this digital product passport. Whereas 80%, 90% is already known today. They have that somewhere in their systems, but they just need to get started. And that's where we really push on. I mentioned the data haystack in the beginning. We say, start with the needle right now. Okay, look at your product. What information do you have readily available today in your systems that makes sense to communicate to the users, regardless of this digital product passport, right? So pulling open the debate to turn it into a valuable project straight away that brings value, as in euros, into your company, right? That's really, I think, a main focus, and to push them towards action. So creating value in a matter of days. In a lot of these supply chain projects, you get they know SAP. They think every project takes at least 3 years to implement,
3 years,
and costs you 2.5 million euros. No, that doesn't have to be the case, right? So I think that's the second element. And the last, perhaps, is the context awareness. Where we see a lot of ahas with our customers, that's what we call context awareness, and the fact that if you have a digital channel on top of your product, you can scan it in Portugal or in Spain, for example, and it can behave differently. Because it's dynamic, right? So you can scan it today and in 2 weeks, and it can look totally different. And so we have a lot of our customers that already started, that know that whenever the digital product passport will come out, just like Tesla upgrades its cars overnight and you have a different car, you're going to create the same type of reflex for your physical products. Like, okay, digital product is here for all your products in the field. Overnight, they all of a sudden have it behind the tag.
Yeah. Maybe let's focus a little bit on the challenges in the textile industry. Then we talk about circularity and the upcoming or in various countries implemented legislation on EPR, extended producer responsibility. What is the role of Twintag in helping companies manage that EPR legislation?
Yeah, I think I've always been a strong believer that technology is just a means to an end. So we have an important but a limited role. We're not in the front seat. We're in the back seat, if you want. So we're there to help realize these business outcomes. For us, if I take a look at it, whether it's a shoe, whether it's a piece of meat, whether it's a boiler in your basement, it's all physical products that need a Twintag or a connected product on top of that. So we don't consider ourselves specialists in the topic of EPR, but what we do see that there's a lot of evangelization needed. And so what we're creating is really an ecosystem around us to get in contact with those people that can know, so that we can help our customers as a whole who are asking these questions like, okay, when is what do we need to know about this EPR and so forth, like with an EE labels, for example, from a manufacturing perspective, but specialized consulting companies as well, so that we can form one front towards those companies. And the challenge, I think, is again linked to change management, not to technology. Technology is not the challenge at the moment. There's more than enough technology available to make quantum leaps in terms of circularity. So it's the innate fear of changing the status quo within the companies. That's the true challenge, and it's a matter of evangelizing, working with them, and showing them that change can happen, and that it's a matter of hard work.
And do you feel a difference in adoption of this digital technology in types of company, whether it comes to size or ownership? Do you see a difference there?
Interesting question. Yes, do. So right now we're really in the phase where, and that's across sectors, where it's the first movers that are moving. And what's very typical there is that there's some sort of what I call enlightened despotism at the top. That strong visionaries in the management team that really have mapped out a vision of why it makes so much sense to start adding data and information to those products for circularity, because that's typically the strategic pillar under which they link it. Like, as budgeted, it's on the corporate agenda, so let's link it under sustainability and circularity. But it's the as we say in nice Dutch, uit de klauwen gewassen KMO's.
Mid-size SMEs. Yes.
Indeed, those are really but that with a vision. So those are typically the ones that are moving fast. The Exxon Mobils of the world, which are also customers, they do have the vision, but they're literally oil tankers. So to get them moving is a bit more difficult.
So you have benefits, of course, that go beyond compliance, purely compliance, but it also includes, I think, reputation of the companies, of the brands, and maybe creating new business models for companies.
Absolutely. I think when I started or joined Twintag, I think there we were mainly focusing in the beginning on customer experience and collecting customer data. You have your products in the wild, okay, they have a way to scan, so you can start collecting data about who's using it, when are they using it, how are they using it, what's their direct feedback. And so a lot on customer feedback, customer experience, also on brand storytelling, because you're using your product, then you see this nice QR, you're a bit curious, okay, you scan it, you get a nice story and so forth. That story is now changing with the whole DPP into, okay, you don't get away with the marketing story, you're gonna have to prove it, show it. So that's a shift that you see, but also protecting against counterfeit. adding new digital services to it. Compliance we already mentioned. Show your sustainability results. And you're creating a new channel basically next to the existing channels that you already have to spread your products.
Yeah. So companies should embrace this opportunity of digital technology as well to enhance their opportunities in the market
absolutely.
as well. I think that's an important message as well for our listeners. Of course, at Ellie.Connect, we actually have 3 pillars. We have sustainability, digitalization, we talked about that, and the matching. But our third pillar actually is about collaboration. Already pointed out some collaborations. Can you maybe tell us some more about, because you have collaborations outside textiles industry, of course, but for our listeners, I think the textile collaborations are interesting to hear. So we talked about EE labels.
Yes.
Can you maybe explain a little bit what you're doing there and how it started?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we weren't at all. We saw in the market that there were a couple of connected products platforms starting to focus on textiles, but we come out of industry, industrial segments, field services, engineering, chemicals, logistics. Can get a bit into that later, but so we weren't really focusing on this segment a couple of years ago, and it's our CTO who had Michiel, who had a random conversation at an event with, I think it was Marloes from EE Labels, or Irna, I don't remember, and who told the story that they had been looking for a digital way that they had technology to weave individual QR codes. They've had that for 10 years, and they've been looking around the market like, okay, what are digital solutions that provide enough flexibility that can really help us in realizing, in valorizing that machine and the individualization. And so very clearly that, or very obviously, these EE Labels have been working with a lot of important customers or direct customers as well. I think for us as a start and scale up, what is the most difficult challenge, I would say, that's cutting above the noise level. There's so many providers out there. How do you get seen and how do you make yourself relevant? Especially in a market which is early and where there's no specific term yet coined. And so we started working with EE Labels. We identified a number of customers, and in a very pragmatic way, I would say, so not by first establishing a partnership agreement and so forth, but really targeting and working for a concrete customer. Worked out a demo like the one that you see here, where you can really bring that to people and you have individual woven QR codes inside every garment. And so a company like a workwear company like Tricorp is starting to implement that now in practice. And so every individual garment, in this case workwear, is being equipped with such a code. Again, linking to what I mentioned earlier, because they know that eventually there's a digital product passport coming, but also now to already ensure that dealers have the right information, that recyclers have the right information, that they know what part to recycle, but then also consumers can see what this product is made of. Right? And so now we're extending this to other companies. But I think the main, coming back to your point of partnerships, for us in the last 1.5 years, that's been the aha for ourselves, that it's these types of partnerships that make or break actually, because the cutting through the sales cycle is so important. It's a way more logical way to create scale. And so this is with EE Labels in textiles and workwear, and then perhaps fashion, focusing on workwear mostly at the moment, but also in chemicals and logistics with Katunas, for example. I dropped the name of ExxonMobil earlier. We started working, we developed a pilot for ExxonMobil, I think 2-3 years back, which is nice, but it stays with a pilot. And ExxonMobil, if they really want to get serious and say like, okay, who's this low life Twintag? I mean, how can we use that for our large scale operations? Yeah, it's a lot more difficult, but it's through that first pilot, which was done on site at Katunas. They saw us in action, say like, look, all of our customers are looking at these processes, want material traceability and so forth. So we want to be a part of that, and so we developed a structural partnership with Twintag, who go to markets towards all their chemicals and transportation chemicals customers within transportation industry, and that helps enormously in getting these first conversations going. And so we've really tuned our entire go-to-market on those particular partnerships.
So you have partnerships with production companies like in textiles, or logistics companies. What about other technology companies, hardware, machine technology, for instance?
Yeah, indeed. That's one of the focus areas where our CTO is also looking at, is indeed adjacent technologies. And so we focus on the channel, right? So what flows through the channel is less of our focus. But indeed, if you partner up with hardware and labeling technologies that are also coming up in different sectors, it makes a lot of sense to benefit from each other's customer base and come with nice end-to-end solutions that unburden the customers. That's
I might think of machine technology, weaving companies, for instance.
Yeah, true. There it depends. It's a matter of defining the right use case that creates enough urgency today to start working, because a good advisor always mentions that partnerships are where startups go to die. Pretty dramatic, but it can really be true. I can spend days talking to the Deloittes, the KPMGs of the world, who are all interested and want to continue conversations, but in the end, slow movement, right? So it's about selecting the right partner, typically smaller partners that are really focused on their niche, which is a bit contrary to ourselves. Yes, we're on the niche of connected products, but it's very broad across sectors. But that makes for a very good combination to really spearfish on particular use cases that create urgency. It's always like, okay, what can we do today for tomorrow? Obviously, so it's the as a scale up, you have to continuously work on those 3 horizons, where the short term is unfortunately also always important.
Yes, I understand very well. Can I just maybe ask a personal question? I always think about this type of labels and the recyclability at the end of life, because this is a great innovation, but at the end of life of the T-shirt, what happens with the label?
It's a good question. Obviously
maybe
we're
I should ask to
indeed,
labels.
Indeed. And so because they've I think one of the prospects that we went to together also asked that question, and it is indeed recyclable. The exact details on that, indeed, I'm not the right person to ask, but obviously. You can't go around telling a story on recycling if you haven't thought about that, right? So they do keep that in mind in their design, and they're continuously, because they're looking at building a second machine, for example, also continuously, okay, can we use newer materials? How much can we change in the design to make it as recyclable as possible?
Yeah, it's perhaps an idea. You need to re-invite Marloes or someone from Tricorp to talk about that as well. But it's a very interesting application in any case. Let's go back to the beginning maybe of Twintag as well. So the foundation of Twintag already originated from 2017.
Yeah,
so
that's the garage
before COVID. Yes, indeed. Can you maybe give some more insights into the very beginning, the reason why it started? Because it's quite an early digital startup.
It's true. And in the beginning, because I wasn't there, so the main foundation actually came from that the founders, the premise that they started with was it's a bit linking to the data haystack argument that I mentioned earlier. It needs to be easier. How is it so difficult to get the right information on the right device in the right format at the right moment, right? So that was the main underlying premise, and they built a technology to serve that purpose. But it's obviously a super broad premise to start with, like this data accessibility. How can we make that easier? And so it's through the course of our first customers actually we started focusing on physical products, right? So the physical product was not at all in scope when they started it. Again, it was out of a technology, like how can we build cool technology? The linking to the market happened a bit later.
That product market fit is always
yes,
the challenge.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And so that was the main challenge when I joined back in 2019, and it's through those first customers that also this mechanism of the QR popped up, and they liked that and say, okay, we need to do more with that, and it always goes like that at the zigzag.
Yeah.
Even though the stories in hindsight, people will always tell you that we knew exactly what we wanted. No, it's never like that.
No,
always going zigzag.
it's like this,
yes,
indeed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Then to talk about a little bit on the lessons learned you had from the story. I think one of the ambitions of Ellie.Connect is also to inspire, give some inspiration to the people who are listening or watching. Can you share a valuable lesson or message to today about the topic?
Yeah, I think it's a broader topic, more from as an entrepreneur or from the scale up phase we are currently in. That's really the treasuring those first customers and the first champions. They can really define you as a company, right? So we've really lived that in that first phase, working with them, making sure that those first customers, they typically open up new routes to other customers, and having that initial, I think if we'd have to do it all over again, I would probably go to the market a bit quicker and get at least these first confirmations a bit fast or a bit quicker to align a certain story and also make sure you get some revenue in to further grow on that. So that is one from a more startup perspective. From the other one, more linked to digital circularity, that's a strong appeal to start today with whatever you've got. And that's I mean that there's no I call bullshit whenever a company says like, no, but we really need to analyze 6 months more down the road. Yes,
just do it.
There's so much you can do, and that contributes to the cost base and or new revenues, right? So in the domain of circularity, it doesn't have to be a pure compliance cost drain.
Yeah, thank you for that. And a small shout out to our believers, because we had those first customers as well. So I want to thank them. Those who are listening today, again, for their support and their belief in our story as well. Yeah. So, but I do agree that those are the ones to cherish as well. Yeah. Maybe some challenges as well that you experienced and that actually helped you to shape that future.
There's a considerable, as a CEO myself, it's always the roller coaster. So in making sure you enjoy the roller coaster, I guess that's putting it as nicely as I can, and trying to look back, not too many times, but put in some moments where you look back and say like, okay, what did we really learn from these past experiments? The difficulty working as a management consultant before, and I think you worked as a management consultant as well.
Yes, I did as well.
There, okay, you had perhaps long days, important deadlines, but they were somehow, you knew where you had to go. It's very different with a startup or scale up. You have no idea where you need to go. You might put some sort of a hairy goal in front of yourself, but yeah, that's a lot harder than what you think before diving into it. I jumped into it naive, as I think most entrepreneurs do, but that's for sure. That's been a challenge, and it continues to be a challenge, because I think as you grow, that stays. That's that same challenge. So yeah, that's I would say is one.
Okay, and I just want to stress again something you said during the podcast. Celebrating those first small wins are also important, I think.
With the team, to keep the team also motivated. That's
Okay, let's look a little bit into the future as you're entrepreneurs, of course. How do you envision the role of technology further in shaping this circular economy?
It's I think it's a bit what I mentioned earlier. It's going to continue to be the enabler. So while business is catching up with technology today and trying to create change out of that, there's new technologies that are adding new capabilities and for businesses to pick up down the line. So the technology, again, I don't from a personal perspective there, it's going to be, or from Twintag perspective, the what we see clearly in the market there is a rush in every sector to own the digital entry point on top of a product. You see that in practically every sector. And take the garment. One of the reasons that Tricorp started is they want to get rid of they want to avoid a situation where you have 38 labels on your garments for all sorts of use cases. So you see this this rush towards owning this digital entry point. That's also for us where we then defining where we need to go. Okay, it better be a Twintag on top of your product then. A bit of the like Intel had years ago, Intel Inside.
Yeah.
Voilà, it's a bit similar.
Or Gore-Tex.
Yeah, or Gore-Tex, exactly. Yeah. So a similar built-in essence of the product. Right now we speak of connected products. In 5 years from now, I'm convinced that we're going to move back to products because it's going to be implicit.
Yeah.
You're going to assume that whatever product you're looking at, that you'll be able to hold your phone against it and get relevant information off it. You won't need the QR. I mean, no, you'll just assume that this whole digital life will be there, right? So, and technologies will continue to shape towards that, both from the hardware perspective, the labeling perspective, and the underlying capabilities.
Yeah. So actually, the technology is some kind of the basement of the dream house that we're building.
Yes. Yes.
The invisible part that is very important. Yeah. Okay, something about future developments still
Yeah, for us, it's you have to continuously, and there's two areas I would say. It's one, continue to listen what our customers are saying and what they're investing in. That drives the roadmap. On the same time, we also need to make sure that all of a sudden we don't get passed by the Googles of this world, who all of a sudden see that there's so much to do in the segment and they bazooka you out of business. So meaning continuing to add new digital capabilities. So that's more from a technology perspective. From industry perspective, it's continuing to enlarge in the partner ecosystem, right? So we've never had the view of really deep diving into just one sector and being the specialist in that one sector, but to make sure that we can leverage the technology as much as possible across sectors. So labeling is a domain that we're looking at a lot. We've started finally to get some breakthroughs in pharma who are coming, or medical devices who are making baby steps in this area. So that's time will tell.
We're looking forward to the future. In any case, for developments in the textiles and fashion industry and connecting with the ecosystem, this is definitely something where Ellie.Connect can play a little role to help you jumpstart there in that industry.
Yeah, so. I can't underline the importance of that, because it links to that partnerships. The wherever you can avoid this first cold outreach for start and scale ups, who don't know what the priorities, or not necessarily who's working on what priority at the corporate, and bringing those together is super valuable.
Yes.
So thank you.
This is what
that.
We're aiming at. Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you. So thank you very much. We're about at the
Likewise.
end of this episode, which was again very interesting. I learned a lot. So thank you very much for sharing your insights and passion, of course, as an entrepreneur. I hope that our listeners and watchers have enjoyed the show as well. I would invite you, if you're hearing this episode and have not visited www.Ellie.Connect.com, to do so, to look at some more insights, to maybe connect with Alexander and this technology as well. Stay tuned for some more very interesting episodes coming. So thank you very much. Thank you, Alexander,
you.
again, and good luck. And let's continue doing great things together.
Absolutely. Thanks a
Bye.
lot.